And starting the stream and go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the South-Afrifur podcast. My name is Ivic Wolf, and with us today we have Potoroo, also known as Rugoyle or is a Rugoyle, also known as, what is it, Killer Kangaroo?
Oh, I had the Kangaroo Warrior for a while back when I was working in Guelph, yeah.
Kangaroo Warrior. Obviously, our co-host today is Scratch. Inpw is not joining us this evening. He obviously just moved up to Johannesburg and will be joining us within probably the next couple of weeks.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Welcome to the South-Afrifur podcast here at 8 p.m. Why do I keep doing that? 8 p.m.
Is it going? Has it started?
Oh, crap.
Yes.
0 KB up at the moment. Shit, I think we're dropping frames. Wait, hold on. Okay. Start. Go ahead.
Yeah, again?
Go ahead.
God damn.
Sorry, I think I might have misclicked or something.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the South-Afrifur podcast here at 8 p.m. CAT, 2 p.m. EDT, or Eastern Time. Tonight we have Potoroo from Toronto joining us, also known as, what was it, Kangaroo Warrior? Potoroo?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just dealing with the audio. I'm new to this, remember?
Oh, yeah. For that, just go into the pop-out chat, and then you can just see the chat as it goes.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's the little no, it's not the person. It's the little gear.
Oh, I love it.
Right?
Oh,
No, the
magic.
Yeah, there we go. Then you don't have to hear yourself twice.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Sweet.
anyway, Potoroo, also the chairman of Camp Feral, as well as the leader well, you could pretty much call him the leader of the Toronto Furs to an extent.
Oh, God.
That's what your your Wikifur page says. I'm just saying.
That's what it seems. Yeah, that's awkward.
It seems to say that.
Cultural
You own the
representative.
thing list. You arrange everything in Toronto, from what it says. Yeah. So, and again, obviously, Scratch is our co-host today. Inpw won't be joining us this evening because he has just moved up to Johannesburg and will be out for the next possibly 2 to 3 weeks. But yeah, we'll definitely let you know as things are going. Those of you who have seen us on the Tumblr page, I'm actually going to post the link right here. If you guys want a little bit of extra information on Potoroo, have a look at that. So, pretty much, Potoroo is one of our returning guests, but we've never really had like a good one-on-one conversation with him, I guess. We've had good one-on-one conversations, but never sort of pointed questions, I believe. So if anybody...
So it's just been kind of banter back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, if anybody down there wants to ask a couple of questions, those of you who know about Camp Feral, those of you who have an idea of what Camp Feral is, or if you want to look at some of the videos that are there from the Tumblr site, we've actually linked the Camp Feral website on YouTube site on there, and yeah. So pretty much what we're going to talk about today with our esteemed guest, as I keep calling him, and he keeps on sort of doing that, is we're going to obviously talk about the fact that, Camp Feral was, what was it, about a month and a half ago?
Yeah, so it would have been at the very end of August. So yeah, about a month and a half ago now.
Uh-huh. And... Oh. No, sorry, I thought I heard a knock. The man who knocks is behind me.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear, yes, indeed. But, yeah, so, I mean, obviously 2015 seemed to run pretty successfully.
Yeah, it was our biggest year. Somehow, it became our biggest year yet, and it was so smooth that one of the in-jokes this year is that if anybody commented on how smooth it was, staff would have to run and find a piece of wood to knock on as quickly as possible, because it was, or we would sit there completely confused why things were running so smoothly, because no matter how hard you plan or what you do, there's always something sort of just around the corner, and it seemed like that thing never came around the corner to us. So it was a good year, but a terrifyingly stressful year for the fact that nothing happened.
That's a weird way of putting. That's a weird way of looking at it.
Yeah, because
All
you
right.
think it's coming. You think it's coming, and then it doesn't. You're like, oh god.
And it's actually kind of weird. I mean, sort of like you have Camp Feral juxtaposed against what was it, OklahomaCon? OklaCon?
Oklacon, yeah, Oklacon, which I guess they would have been hitting their 12th or 13th year coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have.
Those of you, well, Potoroo, you'd probably know better, being closer to the entire area. But I mean, maybe just small
Mhm.
blurb about what happened at OklaCon.
Well, Oklacon and another camping convention called Wild Nights were both our end were both camps in Oklahoma, which is just north of Texas. And Oklacon ran into some issues both with behavior at not even at the con, but by people who arrived early and claimed to be a part of the event,
Hmm.
and then behaving badly, which did not endear themselves to the campgrounds.
Yes.
And the campgrounds themselves were never quite sure about whether they liked Oklahoma or not. I've heard some rumors that they were kind of, once a new group of people came into that particular park, they were trying to sort of get Oklahoma out. But it sounds like the worst happened when they found a new location, a new place to hold their camp, and somebody, I guess, called ahead. I don't know the exact details, but the word of the incident by the people that weren't even at camp, just associated themselves with camp, um, got to the other park, and the other park turned them down. So basically, bad behavior and bad luck shut down a 12-year-old furry con, and it was the biggest outdoor con in the world. It drew hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, if I remember correctly, the conversation was something along the lines of, it was in Oklahoma, it was in a smallish town, right? Or
Yeah. If
nearby
you think of it
town.
like up here we have provincial parks, and in the states they have state parks. So like, they're places you can go camping, but they're essentially managed by, I guess, the parks and recreation people of the entire state or province.
Yeah.
So it was held in a state park. So it was a government-run park
Hmm.
near a very small town. Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I heard, like what was it, about 11% of their income per year came from that con specifically.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is tough.
I mean, and that's always a shame to hear is that like not only is somebody else's beef with a specific group of people causing damage to both the name as well as the sort of reputation and everything like that we have, it's also taking away 11% of like, income to a small town.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was good for the town, and I don't think the people in the town really had a problem with Oklahoma, because it was Oklahoma's always been uh, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a sort of a clean con. Like, it's just a con, people go, they have fun, they might have a couple of beers, but you never really hear about you don't get the controversies coming out
Yeah.
of Oklahoma. And then just all it took was 1 year.
Mm.
And that's another thing that's always in the back of our mind with Feral. It's like we we have a really, really good relationship with the people who we run the camp with, the people who own the
Mm.
site. At the
Yeah.
same time, totally understand if some bad behavior were to get out and it reflected badly on them, and understand why they'd be concerned.
Yeah.
So it's you're always kind of walking on a fine line. We're pretty lucky because our relationship with the camp is so tight that once we arrive, it's pretty much like their camp counselors who actually run the camp for the kids in the summer, and then we come in just after the kids leave, because it's a summer camp that's been around since the 1930s. So we come in after the kids leave, like within 3 days. And
Mhm.
it's almost like the furry staff, the feral staff, and the campsite staff immediately become one gelled staff, because after, let's see, 2004, we returned to this campsite after 5 years away. So for the last 12 events, 11 or 12 events, we've pretty much been working with mostly the same people. So
Uh-huh.
there comes a point we see each other once a year, but we're all in it together, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why they like Camp Feral, is that we're pretty low maintenance. I mean, we're adults, but we act like kids.
Yeah.
So we'll do all the stupid, silly, fun games that they throw at us, like Predator versus Prey and stuff like that. But at the same time, we clean up after ourselves.
Yeah.
We can pull out an acoustic guitar and play, the latest, I don't know, Radiohead song on the porch or something with one of them. Like, we're adults enough that we can do the adulty things, but we're also kids enough that we'll have fun with the usual camp stuff.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
that's great. Um, so I mean, obviously, like it being such a quiet year, I guess, in respect to drama and whatnot,
Yeah.
things running smoothly for once. How exactly, like, how is that different from having it be sort of, say, let's say 2014, 13, 12, 11. Which one was
Okay.
which one was your worst year?
I think
Two.
I can safely say it would be 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Previously to that, it probably would have been 2009. But the irony to worst years at Camp Farrell is that it will be the worst year. But for instance, 2009, that was the first year that we got inundated with people saying it was their favorite year.
Yeah.
Which has changed obviously every year. There's more of an influx of people actually being open to tell us what they thought of stuff. But 2009 was at that point the worst year, and then it seemed that all the campers missed everything that was horrible, which I guess was good for us. And then 2012, I mean, it was the worst year, but not for. It was the worst year on staff for the staffers to sort of manage everything, but I wouldn't say it was the worst year for any lack of planning or any. It was just so many different things got thrown at us that no one can plan for, kind of a thing. That it definitely stressed us all out and had us
Yeah.
up all night. Like there were a few people that would maybe sleep 4 hours after like breakfast and then
Yeah.
would be up for the rest of the day through the night. But yeah, I would say 2012. And the big difference between this year and those years is that I guess luck was on our side. Nothing unexpected came our way.
Mm-hmm.
And also just I think the analogy that was best described back in 2007, 2008, one of our staff said that it's kind of like we always hammer in nails with the claw end of a hammer. So the nail goes in. It's just harder to do. And then every once in a while, we remember you can spin the hammer around. And we're getting this, in the end, the same result. It's always the same result. People have a good time, things get done. One event might be late, one event might have to get canceled because nobody showed up, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like the work still gets done. It's just every once in a while we remember we can use the hammer end of the hammer and suddenly everything goes much more smoothly. And this year was kind of like that. And really this year, last year, back until 2012, we've had 3 good years in a row where really weather was the big complaint. And that's the best. The best is when weather is the worst complaint. You're like, we had an amazing year, guys. They're unhappy about the rain. We had no control over the rain, so we're good.
That's great.
You mentioned you mentioned something about before we started something about the more embarrassing story you had to tell about this year.
Oh
You set
yeah,
yourself up for that.
yeah, we could totally kick off with that. So every year is something like there's a story that comes from every year for everybody. Usually multiple stories, but like every year there's always a series of moments that you're going to have, and those moments may be witnessed by 3 or 4 people that may be in front of the entire camp. But there's just these moments that are I hate to say that they're counter to what would happen at a hotel con. I just find camping cons and feral in particular experiences have this weird magical quality to them where something will happen to you in front of 5 people and then those 5 people will go out and tell 5 people and it'll spread through camp and it'll become an in-joke and it's like this really magical thing that happens because it's a very small tight camp. But this year basically what happened to me resulted from one of the camp staff, so not feral staff, but the actual camp staff. And every year we always have a camp staffer who we're usually most connected with. Generally, it's the owner's son. His name is Max, and Max is like the director of we'll call it the outdoor center. So you have the kids camp, and then when the kids camp's done, groups come in to use it, like us. He sort of handles all of that. So he's the director of the outdoor camp center. This year he was busy So we spent most of our time with Josh, who's somebody we've known for years. Like, he's pretty much like us. We're two peas in a pod, even though he's a non-fur and we're furs. But Josh, over the years, has really gotten to know us really well. Like, he can read us pretty well. So I was standing, literally arrived, jumped out of my car, ran to Main Lodge, met up with Josh, asked him what was going on. Main Lodge is sort of the central location where food is served and people hang out. A big rustic lodge. I'll try to get some pictures together for you guys, maybe to share on a Tumblr, because it's beautiful.
Okay,
But
sure.
so I went to Main Lodge, bumped into Josh. I asked Josh how things were going in the parking lot, because there's a place we park our cars to keep them off site so that the pristine nature is sort of maintained. And he said that he was going to send somebody up to the parking lot, make sure people were parking and walking in rather than driving onto site. So he called one of the new staffers over, and this is somebody that was just there for their first year. And the new staffer came over, and Josh said, Rue, this is Toby. He's going to be taking care of the parking lot. He's new this year. And we talked for a bit, and then Toby left, and Josh just was staring at me because Josh, knowing me well, had realized I had instantly had a crush on Toby.
Oh, goodness.
The second he walked up. So I was just sitting there, and Josh just had this look in his face like, oh. I'm like, oh, fuck, what's going to happen? What's going to happen next? So, needless to say, throughout the camp, Josh would find as many opportunities as possible to bring Toby over so that we could discuss things or whatever, and kept planting in my mind like all this stuff about, oh, well, you know, I could always just talk to Toby. And I'm like, oh, God, this is so embarrassing. Because, of course, now it's passing through their staff. I'm pretty sure Toby knows, and our staff all knows as well. So there's this thing that happens at Feral called cabin skits. And it's pretty much exactly as you expect it to be. We refer to it as the only mandatory part of camp, though obviously if somebody has severe stage fright, they don't have to do it. But we've always told people, like, this is the mandatory part of camp. Your cabin gets together, you make a skit, you perform it in front of everybody, but everybody else is doing it. So even if you feel shy about being on stage, we're all making idiots out of ourselves. Feral staff deliberately go up first so that people see that we're going to be idiots first. And most people, when they leave cabin skits, are like, I'm glad I did it. I got over my stage fright, whatever. It's just this really cool moment that brings everybody together into the same room to basically talk about the in-jokes of camp or make fun of the theme or whatever. So it was us first. And for the past couple of years, we've had some horrifying themes. So our cabin skits usually involve all of us being dead. This year, as a result of Jason, because it was a Friday the 13th theme. So we went up, we did our skit. Everybody kind of clapped nicely because we're always just dead on stage these days. And then the the camp staff, they decided they were going to do their skit. So they went up and they did this. They started off with this really funny sort of martial arts based skit because one of the campers there is like a third level black belt. Cool. And he was very, very entertaining. And then they brought up the next batch. And the next batch was the skit called Two Princes, where two characters essentially play an entire family. So one person comes up, knocks on the door, asks to talk to the prince, and then they say, I'll see if I can get him. And then when they turn, that person runs and sits in the chair next to them and like plays, say, the father, and the first person's the mother. And then the mother asks the father, and the father says, I'll ask. And then the father turns his head, and the person playing the mother has to run to the next chair and play the character of the prince. And it goes faster and faster and faster. And for Feral, of course, they play it up as a young prince is coming to ask for the prince, because it's a very, very high gay population. But what they did was the two people playing the roles were Josh and Toby. So Josh began the skit by getting them both to take off their shirts. And then, as the skit was going on, Josh would just name drop my name. He'd be like, so there's a nice man waiting. He's pretty handsome. And Toby would be like, oh, really? He'd be like, he's Rue handsome. And I'm sitting there like, oh, my Lord. It's at this precise moment that one of our staffers, who I guess wasn't privy to it, her name's Flo, and she's hilarious. She turns and looks at me, and with the crowd like silent watching the skit, she's like, "Rose blushing," and just points right at me because I was beat red. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst. This is the worst. So they go through the entire skit. I go up. I'm offering to help the next people open the curtains so they can do their skit. And Josh comes up, stands in front of me, and is like, "I'm really sorry. I threw you under the bus there." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I understand it's camp. Like, you have to have a thick skin with camp." I don't realize he's actually distracting me so that Toby could run up, smack me on the ass, and run away. So I'm sitting there like, this is now a camp-wide thing. Like, the camp all knows that I have a crush on this guy. And people actually haven't really let me live it down yet. But that was pretty embarrassing because it just kept on going on and on and on. And it's one of those things, I didn't even have to say it. This guy just looked at me and was like, "I see what's going on here." But that's also, like, it kind of shows our connection with the camp. Like, we're all so tight. We spend most of our times goofing off together and just, like, being dorks. And I think that's what endears the feral staff to the camp staff, is the fact that we're all just goofy. Like, if they weren't outdoorsy geeks, they would probably be furries.
Huh.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'd like to think that, at least.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's sort of, you mentioned, oh, sorry, Ivic, go
No,
ahead.
no, go.
Cool. You mentioned you guys have like a really good working relationship with the staff at camp itself. Like, was it always like that? How was it the first year? I've always been curious, like, how do you introduce this to a bunch of people who have like next to no idea about what's going on here?
I think the very, very first year, I wasn't involved with the camp when they first went to the site, which was in 1998.
Ah, okay.
It would have actually, I think, been 1997 when they first made contact, but 1998. But I have seen the video because they took video of sort of the conversation. And as near as I could see it, the original director who was there at the time and the owners just kind of saw it as sort of a geeky artsy camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the first year and then for some reason broke away and went to a separate site for 5 years, which was a big mistake. Like, should have just stayed at the one site. But when we came back, that was when I was now involved, and we came back to Erewhon, and it was the same director from the original year, 98. So she was very, very cool about like being excited to have us back. They kind of had an idea of who we were, what we were all about, and we connected again like really quickly. And part of, I think, what made the relationship now so strong is that the at least in 2004, 2005, 2006, one of the main camp staff, one of the main counselors, is the guy who is currently the director. So they've always had this kind of, I don't want to say like super excitement for us, but they love working with us because we're generally fun to be around. We don't cause problems. Like I said, we clean up after each other. So I know there have been years where there have been lotteries or fights to see which staff members get to stay for us because the rest have to go home.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of relationship has just kept building up because a big part of it is that they know we respect the site. Like, we take care of the site as best we can, but it's also that we just have fun with them, and we try to make sure that they're having as much fun as, like, their staff. Essentially, we're sort of paying them to do something, but from our perspective, we'd rather them be having fun than feeling like they have a job to do. So that's I think that's part of what builds up a strong relationship. Is the big thing is showing that you respect the fact that you're a guest somewhere, rather than seeing it like, I'm paying for this so it's mine. That's a big step.
No, yeah, but and there's not a lot of people who would actually go to those kinds of lengths to involve people in something like that, just to, like, have them be on board as much as like any of the guests are. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it says a lot
I think
about.
I was just gonna say, I think it's really important. Like, it's one of those things that a lot of conventions and events don't think about because you're so focused on entertaining your attendees, I guess, attendees or whatever you want to call them. Like, we call them campers. You don't think about the fact that, you know, you have all these other people that are working with you. And I can understand a first year, second year, third year event just being like, oh, well, we don't have the time to worry about the hotel staff or anything like that because we're so stressed about just getting everything on time. But I think there's a point where you need to switch on, maybe bring in a couple of extra staff whose job it is to like actually make sure everything's going well with the venue so that they love you as much as you love the venue that you're using.
Mm. Fair point. Fair point.
Mm. Um, have you received a number from a specific man?
Have I received a number? Actually, yes, I got an email.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got an
How
email.
Good stuff.
Yeah, at the end of camp, you take your con book and go in front of main lodge, and everybody signs it like a yearbook.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of people from the staff to sign it, and I looked over, and he was like walking away, and I was just like, Toby, you have to sign my con book. And he came back and signed it, and I was expecting just a, you're weird, stay away from me kind of a thing, but instead I got his email. So
Huh.
yeah, I'm going, woo! Not that anything's gonna happen. It was just like a whoa, but like that was pretty funny.
Huh.
Definitely a bit of a confidence booster there.
All right. Great. Now close that window. How I'd assume that like, and it's something that I've said on like several occasions. Like groups of furs in any specific area is a lot like herding cats. In that they just don't go in the right ways. But one of the questions that I would actually like to ask is that like I know that I'm not sure if it was tempo or if it was, I think it could have been Kanish.
Mm-hmm.
No, not Kanish. It was one of the guys in your area that we actually had on the podcast at one point that mentioned that there was one point that he was the guest of honor, and that he was supposedly a good guy in that little game that you guys play out in the forest.
Oh yeah, that was probably tempo.
Yeah, there must
Yeah,
have
that
been
would've been
tempo,
tempo.
where he ran into another into a different camp, wearing a pair of bunny ears, and they just weren't furries.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Actually, that wouldn't have been tempo. That because like that kind of thing used to happen at the old place. That was at the site before we are at now, and they would have other campers there. There have been situations at our current site where, since it's like I said, like this place was founded in the 1930s. I don't know how far his reach got, but do you guys know Lorne Greene? He had a show called like New Wilderness. It was a pretty popular American nature show. He was also on that show called Bonanza, I think.
Oh,
but
yeah,
back-
Bonanza. No, yeah.
Yeah. So he was like the gruff looking guy with a deep voice. And he actually, his first job was as drama teacher at this camp back in the 30s. So like it's got this like really prestigious reputation. So and the owners, like, they're really close with us. So occasionally they'll be like, do you mind if we have some guests over? And we'll be like, sure. One year those guests ended up being like this reunion of people who had been coming to camp over the last 70 years. So Farrell's going on, and there are these people from ages like 50 to 80 canoeing into camp, and they actually witnessed a lot of strange stuff. We were on our best behavior, but you can't help it when people are running around in fursuit that somebody's going to look up and be like, why is there a dog man in front of me?
And also,
That may have been
people,
that year.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I think that might have been Tempo's year. I'm trying to remember because I know he was playing Mother Nature that year. I think.
Yeah, that sounds
Predator
familiar.
Play
Yes, no,
game.
it was that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing game because you have omnivores, herbivores, and carnivores, and they're all chasing each other as one would in nature. And you have little life beads, and if you get caught by somebody who would eat you, you have to give a life bead. But you also have to find food and water stations, which you stamp a card with, and the more water and more food you eat, the more likely it is you'll survive the game. But we also have trucks, so transport trucks. And if a transport truck sees you cross the street in front of it, it can just point at you and say, I hit you, and you lose a life. We have, like, there's pestilence, there's fire. If they catch you, and they're usually we get the fastest people at the camp to be those people, because generally if there's a disease, it's going to be hard to get away from it. So we get the most athletic people to chase people down, and they can go after anybody. And then we obviously have the helpers, like there's wind. Wind can either help you or hurt you. So if a carnivore goes up to wind and says, do I smell any herbivores? they could either point you directly to a herbivore because the wind is blowing the scent to that carnivore, or point them away and sort of like misdirect them. So like they can work for or against you. And then there's Mother Nature, and Mother Nature, I can say semi naughty words on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mother Nature's a bitch, and she can make you do stuff like you have to sing all of Never Gonna Give You Up in its entirety from beginning to end, and then she might give you a life to help bring you back to life, or she can put you in situations where you get killed because you were a bad person. I know one year, I guess it would have been 2011, Rikoshi was Mother Nature, and it seemed like everybody that needed to be brought back to life was an omnivore. So Mother Nature started turning against omnivores because Mother Nature decided that omnivores were all stupid. So if an omnivore came up, an omnivore got no help. It like had nothing to do with how nice they were or anything like that. They got no help because obviously omnivores were stupid, and Mother Nature would only help carnivores and herbivores. And so every year, the storyline kind of changes because we also encourage guests of honor to, and like sort of special guests to come up with their own little added storyline. So we've had people pretend to be corrupt businessmen, and they would like walk around and try to like buy animals. We had a corrupt farmer who sat next to a water station where people had to go get water. And once you punched the water, started talking about all the farms around it, dumping waste into the water, and would take a life bead from you. So like just if people can come up with a storyline to add to it, then we're game with that. Yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Really fun. And like with games like that, how many times like I can sort of imagine that a lot of people wouldn't really like to sit stuff like that out. So yeah,
that kind of thing is we usually call those sort of campwide games. We have very specific slots in our schedule that have nothing competing against them. So these games, which would be the melee's kind of like capture the flag with boffer swords, and we have predator prey, and then sometimes we have a third one. Usually it's tied to the actual campwide game storyline, which is tied to our theme, which is something that people can play at any time. Normally just sort of like a paper, rock, scissors kind of game, or some kind of intrigue assassin's game or something. But we make sure that those main events, that furry improv, the cabin skits, that they don't really have anything up against them, so that nobody feels that they're being pulled one side or the other. And if somebody really doesn't want to do it, I mean, you can still go canoeing, you can still go do archery. Like there's all these other activities that are always running. So yeah, so those kinds of games people don't want to sit out, and we don't like they don't have to because we schedule around to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sort of. Great. Any other sort of stories from say what was the strangest thing that happened in 2014?
Oh, the strangest thing this year.
Or
This year, yeah. Well, 2014. I'm trying to think. 2014. That was Algonquin. So I guess the funniest thing that happened that year, it was sort of a Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings theme, and that one of the strangest things that happened that year was somewhat sort of scripted and prepared. We do something called the sponsors event, or it's like we're sponsors and patrons. They get fancy wines and cheeses, and we have champagne toast, and my dad makes beer, so we bring some of his beer. And it's all just available for people. It's like an event to thank them for being a sponsor or a patron, which would be like, I guess, a sponsor or super sponsor at most cons. And we always try to do something interesting at each of these events. Now, at first it was just a champagne pop where we got all the staff to line up and just pop the bottles of champagne before pouring them and give a bit of a speech. But in the past few years, we've decided to shake it up a bit. And in 2014, since it was a Game of Thrones theme, when all the staff went up to pop the champagne bottles, we had hand-selected some of the campers. They shut and locked the doors and killed us off like the Red Wedding. So essentially, these people just ran at the staff with knives and took all the staff down and then the people who killed us popped the champagne and poured it out while we lay dead on the ground. So that was one of the weirder things because we hadn't done that kind of thing yet. We hadn't sort of shocked people by having them kill us off during a champagne toast before, but that was pretty fun. And that year was also a lot of fun just because of the videos. We put a lot of effort into the storyline and the theme. A lot of filming out in the snow. A lot of sort of awesome wide vistas. Timber, who's on staff, he made all of us cloaks. We had 4 different sort of, I guess, houses of power, and each had a different color. So we had like 4 different series of colored cloaks and stuff. It was pretty wild. We went all out with that theme.
Hmm. Huh.
Well, what? Yeah. Sorry. Like I wanted to ask something, but it like completely slipped my mind now.
Like, I mean, obviously you do a lot of things outside of Camp Feral as well. I mean, as we sort of semi-mentioned as well, your I need to read this quick. Yeah, you began furry events around theatrical productions.
Yeah, that was sort of where I started. I was like, it's weird to think back, but I was really super shy back when I got into furry. My first big furry event would have been the first Camp Feral in 1998,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there. I was really shy. I kind of stuck to the sides, but I knew all the organizers because I'd gotten to know them over the year before, so I kind of got to be involved with a lot of stuff. But at the same time, I just really didn't know how to interact with people. So in, I guess, 1998, I was taking theater at University of Guelph. And I just decided it would be kind of fun to sort of plan events around shows. Not only would it get people to come see my shows that I was performing, but we could also spend the day, if it was, say, a Saturday show, people would come in the morning and we'd do these things called Guelph Furry Breakfasts. And everybody would have breakfast. We'd go maybe do mini putt or something like that. We'd get a quick lunch, and then we'd head to the theater, and then they'd see the show, and then they'd sometimes come back to my place just to kind of hang out for the rest of the night, or we'd go to a bar. So that kind of got started, I guess, in 97, 98, mostly 98, and kept going through to about 2001. And it was kind of neat because Guelph is about an hour outside of Toronto, but it would always draw all the Toronto furs out. So we'd have like everybody from Toronto would be in Guelph on the weekend, which is a weird sort of reversal because now pretty much everybody goes to Toronto for the weekend if they want to hang out with a bunch of furs. But yeah, that's sort of what I started out doing. I just sort of realized there's this thing going on. People might enjoy it. I might as well invite people to it. And that somehow led to me organizing stuff all the time, which for a good like 7, 8, 10 years, it seemed like every month and a half or so I was organizing some kind of fur meet or furry event.
Yeah, dude, once you pick up that torch, it's hard to put it down.
It really is.
True.
Get a chance to put it down.
Yeah. And like even if you put it down, it doesn't mean like our big joke at Feral is that like only 2 people, maybe 2 people total have left staff, continue to come to Feral and not worked. Because generally you continue working for Feral even if you're not on staff anymore. And one did that this year. He actually retired after like 12 years of being our MC without being on staff. He'd MC the cabin skits. He just was in charge of like communicating with people because he was just hilarious. He's a good stage personality. He passed the torch this year. He couldn't even handle it. He was at the back heckling the guy who took his job, which was great. It was hilarious to watch. But like there was like you can't leave. Once you're signed up for something, you're roped in. And I find that for furry events and being a furry organizer, once you start organizing, like the only way to leave is to like entirely leave the fandom, and nobody does that for very long.
I think if I remember correctly, somebody recently sent me or showed me a tweet from, I can't remember which con it was from, but he mentioned something along the lines of, what was it? I have unfortunately been asked to be chairman again for this year. Why are the gods so angry with me?
Yeah,
It's true though.
yeah. That there's another organization who's been having a repeat chair for like the past forever. So yeah, apparently
Yeah.
it's a thing.
Yeah, it was actually Valerian. Valerian actually sent me that randomly. It was actually because obviously we've been in contact with Uncle Kage recently, and the first his only words of wisdom are "run while you can."
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I generally say the same thing. If deep in your heart you have a passion for running events for furries and you want to devote every last second of your spare time to it, do it. If you want to have a social life and not necessarily devote all of your spare time to it, it's the kind of thing you want to avoid. But like if you enjoy it, like there's nothing like it's cool. It's really
Yeah.
cool to sort of be involved and it is like it's horrible to say it is kind of a thankless job. You're going to get a lot of thanks, but sometimes it's not going to feel like it is quite up to the scale of the amount of work you've had to do. But that's fine because you put something together, um, and if you have fun with it, like you have to have fun with it. If you go into it and you're like, if you go into it for the reason of I want to do this to help raise my station in the fandom,
Yeah.
or I want to be Pawdcast or something like that. It's such a weird approach because it's not going to be fun and you're not going to enjoy the work. And in the end, it's really not going to do all that much for you,
Mm.
especially if that's your attitude, right? But if you go into it just you want to put together something for furs, then you like if you feel you can't not do it, then do it. Go for it.
No, that's yeah. Uh,
Good advice. Thank you.
it's very good advice. One of the just in respect to the whole Pop-U-Fur thing, I'm just the immediate like connection that I made with that was Wicked. Those of you guys who haven't listened to the popular song by Wicked, please do. It's amazing. But yeah, just put in Pop-U-Fur and see what happens.
I think I might have seen this before at some point in history.
But so I mean, above and beyond, like you do realize that you saying what was it, Guelph?
Yes.
Yes. If I had to say that word the first time round, I probably would have butchered it. So thank you.
Well, if you've seen Dark Crystal, it's like the Gelflings, but it's the Guelphlings. You can think of it that way.
Oh,
Guelph.
right. I remember. Yes,
Yeah.
Dark Crystal. That
Dark-
was a very dark.
There was a dark movie.
Is
And
that
back
the
when I first got
Demented
into furry, that's how people would make fun of me. They call me a Guelphling because I was going to the University of Guelph, which had like there were so many furries in Guelph though, and it's like one of those weird things where you feel alone and then you realize there's like 10 at your university. You're looking around like, wait, but this is a small town university. How could there be 10? Oh, well, there's also 10 that live in town, but they don't go to the university. You're like, what's going on here?
Huh.
That isn't. Yeah, that
Was
doesn't happen.
sorry? Yes, go.
No, that's it.
Okay. In respect to Bookshelf Bear.
Yeah, that's an on again, off again thing that's been going on. We try to bring in books from Sofa Wolf, from Fur Planet, and stuff like that, and just sell them here in Canada. But one of the big changes this year was we moved. Like we had a house in Toronto. We were renting with another couple, and then just decided. Like there were reasons we ended up moving here to Mississauga, which is it's basically Toronto, but it's just one city over. And as a result, that's sort of I would say that's been put on hold a bit. And we're trying to figure out like how do we want to approach this now that instead of having it's so much easier to run even just like a small business in a house with 4 people who are all involved than running it in 2 houses where one house has a couple of people involved, the other house has one person involved, and you're trying to like figure out like how do we coordinate this? How do we make this work? So that's one of those things. We're gonna see where that goes. It was definitely a very interesting challenge to be like, do we want to be furry book distributors? And we brought them up and would sell them at cons for about the last 3 years. It's very neat. Like running a furry business is very interesting. Because you have this niche market. like
Yeah.
this target market, and it's easy to reach them because it's not like trying to reach the whole world and selling books to everybody. It's trying to sell a specific kind of book to a specific kind of person, and it's pretty neat.
All right. And Fuzzy Notes, have you still been working on that recently, or?
That's one of those things that's coming back as well. That's now that I'm self-employed, I resigned from my job about a week ago, so I can start focusing on, yeah, it's that soon. I'm focusing on music. I'm focusing on getting the podcast back up and running, and a few other little tricks up my sleeve I'm going to be working on over the next 6 months. But yeah, I think I want to get Fuzzy Notes back soon because I feel like it was a nice little podcast to bring music made by furs. It doesn't get really that much attention on places like Fur Affinity and stuff like that. Like, it's just not as prevalent. Give them like a little central hub where you can go, and it's actually an audio show featuring audio music, which is kind of cool. You can just download once a week and you get a little furry music fix. So I'm hoping next week. I put out a call this week to get some submissions, but I only got about 2 or 3 people responding. So I'm going to push a bit harder this week. So if there are any South-Afrifurs out there that make music, get it to me and I will feature it.
We actually do have a couple of people here who would actually enjoy being part of that and being able to express themselves in that way. I know that there's about 2 or 3 that I know of personally, but yeah, we'll also let them know. We'll put out our little tendrils and whatnot.
Excellent. Tendrils.
And tentacle porn the living crap out of them. Yes,
Oh, boy.
with music. You're gonna ask the question, Scratch.
Yeah, well, I'm just sort of reiterating a question from the Peanut Gallery asking, do you guys handle any complications on camp, such as possible disagreements between furs or fights or something like that?
Yeah, like obviously the central sort of mission statement, I guess, for camp would be that we want everybody there to be comfortable, to have a good time. Obviously, there are certain things that really, like if it's a couple that are having a disagreement, and they're in their cabin and they're trying to keep it off the beaten path, just kind of let that roll, because that's really none of your business. It's not until it starts rolling out and suddenly people are having disagreement at the campfire or something like that that it becomes an issue. But we have a very sort of specific approach to how security is handled that is a bit different than most hotel cons, because a lot of cons have the sort of presence. You have a presence there, people wearing red shirts or whatever, and they're there to make sure the peace is being kept. Kind of have a strict set of regulations where they go around and they'll check your badge and make sure everything's under control and whatnot. Where we have a small security force of about 2. And really our approach is more like, everybody sort of knows, like, be on your best behavior, have fun, don't do anything, like, be stupid the way people are stupid when they're having fun, but just rein it in, so you're not like,
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Don't run around with flaming sticks or anything like that. Just like, have fun.
Has that happened?
Setting furs on fire?
We've never really had that problem. Before I got involved, there was a fur that enjoyed hiding in the woods around the campfire, apparently, and throwing rocks at people.
Dick.
But that person was removed. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing, like, that's the extreme case of behavior. And the way I always say it is we try to have security staff that are sweet, friendly, and generally attractive. And so people...
Do you cater for women too?
No, but you'll love these guys anyways. Well, everybody loves them, and part of the sort of trick there is that nobody wants to disappoint them, because they're sweet and friendly. And also, if anything goes wrong, which it rarely does, the approach is to go find the person who may have been involved, separate them from a group so it's not like an embarrassing situation, and just like chat with them, find out what went on, and if there has to be just please don't do that again, whatever, just keep it soft. I find that generally people, they don't want to do anything bad because they don't want to disappoint the sweet security staff, but also people don't want to do anything bad because they want to have a good time themselves. They don't want anybody interfering with them.
Yeah.
So
What
Find
is
find the grizzled, handsome gentleman that smells like cedar wood.
oh yes, we all smell
Bring
like
him out
cedar
to
wood
me.
by the end. Yeah.
What is the most inane request that you've had?
Oh, that's tough.
The fact that you're
Because like
thinking about it is kind of disheartening for a little bit.
no, because the most inane requests, like there are requests I would see as inane, but like to the person, they may be very important. A
Mhm,
lot of food requests, obviously allergy requests aren't inane.
mhm,
Dietary requirements
mhm,
aren't inane. They may seem so the first time you get one, where you're like, what, you can't have eggs or milk, but you can eat everything else. And then suddenly you have to go to the kitchen and be like, can you make sure when you cook you never use eggs or milk in anything? But like you realize that like the kitchen, they enjoy that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
And if in the end they can't satisfy that on a large scale, they'll make an individual meal for that person.
Hmm.
So like we try to make sure that's all under control.
But
We
Yeah.
have had people ask that the weather be nicer.
okay, I'll get right on
That
that.
was yeah, and you do what you can. But
Potoroo,
like
God
yeah,
amongst men.
I am. I put in my request for nice weather. I always like to have one rainy night because falling asleep to rain on the leaves is so relaxing.
Mm,
Uh, I get my best sleep if it's raining at night. Uh, yeah, but rain during the day is even good. I find rain at Farrell to be loads of fun just running around in it because it's different when you're out when you're not walking in a city going to work. When you're out having fun and you're out in the woods and it's pouring rain,
yeah.
it's actually a lot of fun to just like run around in the rain and jump in puddles.
Hmm.
So I have no problem with the rain at Farrell. Heavy, light, whatever. It's a lot of fun.
There are at least 3 pluviophiles listening to this podcast right now. I know that I'm one. I know Scratch is a person who, what was it? Scratch, you introduced me to,
Rainy moods.
yes, rainy moods. Oh, best.
Mm, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's really nice. Like just God, it's like if I don't have to worry about anything, like there was this one time where the rain sort of made me a little bit anxious because our house flooded one time.
Mhm.
So, but like if it's nothing that you need to worry about, then it's just the best thing to fall asleep to rain.
Hmm.
Oh. Mm.
There's a question about temperature. Farrell generally is at, you guys are Celsius, right? You're not stupid Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yay. It generally gets up to 25, 29 on a hot day
Oof.
because we're still at the end of summer. That's at the peak.
That's
Generally, it's
awesome.
sort of more in the low 20s. And at night, a good year, it'll drop down to about 12 to 15. Once every 10 years, there will be at least one night where it will drop down to 0.
Oof.
Hmm.
And that has happened where it was 30 degrees at noon and like 0 at 1 a.m.
Oh,
And
wow.
that those are amazing. But you prepare, you know you're going to get warm, you're going to get cold, you're going to get hot. You just kind of bring all the different types of clothings you'd need. And we sell hoodies at camp as well, just like zip up hoodies
Oh.
that are
Mhm.
feral hoodies.
God.
Started doing that in 2007, and that's sort of a bit of a thing. People like to collect the hoodies, but it also is great when you realize you forgot warm clothes.
Yeah. Scratch loves collecting hoodies.
I
He's
want a
got like,
hoodie now.
you've got like
Oh, yeah.
15,000 of them by now.
You need more. You need a feral hoodie.
Yeah, I need a Camp Farrell hoodie.
If you could
This
make
year's was great.
if you could make a feral denim jacket, I'd be happy.
God damn it.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be great for the musical, actually.
Hmm.
Next year's
Wait.
theme, Feral the Musical.
There you go. Anybody who has money to go over that side from South Africa, feral the musical.
God, I wish. God, I wish. I don't get paid nearly enough for shit like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like the thing is that I mean, it's always amazing to hear these stories from like the perspective of the person who actually runs it, because I mean, you obviously have your ear to the ground more often than not, to the point you're practically like one with the earth. Uh, and I mean, like when I would ask for like inane requests, I meant like somebody who actually Raven has one of the better sort of things here. She asks, I would be like, I'm allergic to everything but caviar. Deal with it.
Yeah, that would be an inane request.
Yeah.
Only because, well, we could probably satisfy that request, but their registration fee would go up. And we don't really like if somebody's gluten free or anything like that, the registration fee stays the same, even if the kitchen has to make them a special meal. That doesn't matter to us.
Mhm.
It's the only time we've only raised the price of feral once since 1998 because we actually dropped the price at one point because we wanted to make it easier for people to attend until we realized we were now losing thousands of dollars out of our own pocket. And even then, when we raised the fee, we raised it back up to what it was in 1998. So the only time we've ever really raised the fee, we added $25 to the base fee just to sort of make things a bit easier. But our whole goal is to like, let's not try to raise the fee. We might have to go up this year only because 10 years of inflation have made everything cost more. So like gas is a lot more, food is a lot more, everything's a lot more. So we just reached that point where it's time to
Thanks, Obama.
bump it up. Yeah, exactly.
Hutch.
No, thanks. Stephen Harper here, thanks. We don't like him.
Ah.
But yeah, it was like we actually have the question. The cost for Camp Feral. The base rate is 350 Canadian. And then we have like a sponsor at 400, and then we have a super sponsor or patron at 495. But if you think of it as that's $350 for 5 days, 4 nights, your lodging's included, your food is included, your activities are included. It breaks down to something like $85 a day for essentially hotel food, cabin food, activities, events, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty reasonable. It's just a big upfront cost. You pay up front so you don't have to pay on site.
Yeah.
Now that does sound fun, though. Like,
well, actually, you know what's funny, Scratch, is that it's not as expensive as we would think that it was. That was a 300.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 350. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 350. You're looking at 4,452 rand.
Yeah, I can drop 5K on like more than a weekend's worth of fun.
So long as you pay the plane trip, which is another 10,000 rand.
I didn't even know. Is it that expensive to get into Canada?
It is.
Did you just,
Because the thing is that for Toronto, you need to take, I think it's a 3-flight trip
No joy.
from Johannesburg, from Johannesburg to Miami, from Miami to New York, and then from New York to Toronto.
Why?
Oh, seriously? I didn't know it was that bad.
If you want like the cheapest flight, you've got to take as many.
Oh, yeah. That's
If
true.
you wanted to go direct, you'd probably be paying around about 20,000 rand.
Yeah.
Cool. Shit.
Because when I went to Brazil for a Bondo, I really lucked out because I went on Copa Airlines, which is based out of Panama. So they fly from Toronto to Panama City, and then from Panama City directly to Sao Paulo. And that flight was about 1,000 Canadian, which isn't far off a flight to South Africa that I've seen. It's usually around 1,000 Canadian. But it's flights are crazy, and like it's weird how you'll have one airline will fly you somewhere for $99, where a competitor is like 400. And I'm like, could one of these $99 airlines get me to South Africa or to Brazil or something, please? Charge me like $400 to get there. That would be amazing.
Yeah. A complete segue quickly. Now, on the Tumblr site, you obviously offered us a picture of yourself and things like that. What exactly is a tourmaline?
Tourmaline. It's a geological thing, isn't it? Like
It's a gemstone,
a strip and a gemstone, I think. The person who painted that or drew that interesting character, he is a furry journalist who does like sort of interviews and has done furry journalism in Brazil for quite a while. And he's also an artist, very, very Brazilian guy. His name is Hui Chao in furry. And he uses like a stamp of Chinese characters that says Hui Chao, I guess. And he drew that for me because I saw him do a piece similar to that of his own character. And I was like, I would love to have that picture as me. And he gave it that title of, is it About Stones and Tourmalines or Of Stones and Tourmalines. It also, it makes a reference, I think, to a Brazilian painter as well. And I think the tourmaline had something to do with that Brazilian painter's style. Because it does kind of have a little gemstone-y etched look to it, the art.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
So many big words in a row. Crystalline boron silicate mineral compound. Whoa.
Elements
Too
of
many big
selenium,
words.
iron, magnesium, sodium, lithium, and potassium.
It's a gemstone.
Yeah, it's a gemstone with
Potassium.
like a colored stripe in it.
Potassium plays
bananas?
heavily next year into Camp Farrell's theme of Farrell the Musical. Potassium actually has been a running gag at Farrell for quite a while, because we do furry improv, and one of the improv games is 5 words, where 2 people leave, and then the audience comes up with 5 completely ridiculous words like cerulean and things like that, or like they'll be like cerulean beer and like stuff like that. And then when the people come in, they have to start. Are given one of those words, and they can only communicate using that word. And then gradually more words are added, so they can see more words. And one year, the first word they were given was holy. So the people were walking around going like holy and pointing at stuff like they were shocked by it, because you somehow have to make the word relevant to your situation. The second word that came up was potassium. So people were like, holy potassium, and walking around like they found this big pile of potassium. But then, of course, the holy potassium became holy potassium, like religious potassium. And they were like praying to the holy potassium. Somehow holy potassium became this running gag. There's one of the guys who was involved in that skit has a t-shirt that has the letter K with a halo over it.
Oh, great.
And holy potassium has become this like big thing. So we're incorporating holy potassium into our storyline next year.
Please tell me that it involves Batman somehow.
Also, yeah.
Holy
It
potassium,
involves
Batman.
a large collection of holy potassium. I'll just leave it with that. There's holy potassium will be involved.
Just like to be inane for a little bit, to be
Love
like a little bit of a stickler for detail. Potassium ignites in air, so
So it's got to be
finding a
underground or something.
finding a big pile of potassium is basically like finding a room on fire. just
But think of what you could do with that power.
Yeah, don't chuck it at anybody.
That would be amazing.
I got a comment from my peanut gallery here in the house, and he pretty much mentioned, imagine auto-combusting bananas.
Yeah.
Like you open up a banana, and just
That would be awesome. There's way too much potassium in these bananas.
Yeah.
We can't open them.
and
Weaponizing bananas.
And now I'm thinking of worms again.
oh yay!
Worms.
The game.
Yeah, there's a potassium bomb, isn't it?
It's just banana bomb.
Oh.
It's straight up.
Oh,
just
banana bombs, of course. Sorry.
It's like
Unfortunately, we recently watched this weird Celestia video, which involves Celestia just like throwing people to the moon because they like bananas.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. It is exactly that. That is probably the reason why banana bombs came out. It's like, oh wait, banana bombs, potassium, throw them into the ground and they explode.
Also,
Boom.
bananas are radioactive. They're produced.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They produce what's its name? Positrons at a rate of like 1 every 45 or 75 minutes or some shit like that.
Wow.
I have this weird feeling. Did we talk about radioactive bananas last time I was on the show?
Very
think so.
possibly. I bring it up quite often. I love bananas.
Why
That's
do you
weird.
want to? Yes, we did actually.
I think we
Radioactive
did.
Bananas was in fact a talking point. I just don't remember that it was with you. How?
I have a weird feeling that I was here last time when it was brought up.
Why is it that bananas come up then?
Well,
It was inevitable this time.
it had to with holy potassium.
Yeah.
Essentially, right now, I'm actually just thinking about System of a Down.
Why?
Terracotta Pie.
Oh. I remember that song.
So you say System of a Down, the first thing I think of is Chop Suey. So
Yeah.
Yeah, fair point. Because feel this album wasn't the best. Let's be honest.
no, but I did love Toxicity. That was a really good album.
Yeah, that was like straight up
I-
the best.
I'm a huge music geek. This is probably the longest I've sat on a podcast on any subject where music did not come up constantly throughout. And I was talking about like Farrell the Musical. Somehow we got through that without talking about music. Interesting.
Okay. Let's satisfy that.
That's a
itch
good
thing.
thing. No, that's good.
No.
Oh, come
Let's hold it off for 5 minutes, and then we hold it off for another 5 minutes, and then we hold it
Actually,
off
I
for
have a
another 5
question.
minutes.
I like it.
All right, fine.
Yes.
Let's hold it up. Let's hold off for a bit then.
I mean, we even talked about fuzzy notes for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and actual music didn't really come up. It was just, I like playing music, and then we stopped.
Okay. Well, are we allowed to ask music questions now?
Yeah, totally.
Because I kind of want to know, like, what are the campfire songs like at Feral?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah. So we have there are multiple music events. There's the Campfire Sing Along, which is actually just like a campfire song event. There's one called Voices in the Dark, where one of our furries run it. It's at one of these sort of campfires that's far off the beaten path. There's no lights around it, so it's literally people singing. The campfire is out. There's no campfire. They just sing in the dark.
Oh.
Which is kind of neat because like your senses are completely different because you can't see.
Oh, wow.
Flashlights are obviously manned at that event, so like you can't walk up with a flashlight. You have to kind of feel your way through and follow the noise. And we also have the musician circle, which is kind of like half open mic, half people prepare short 3-song sets. And it's like a little festival. People will play songs, and then you have an open mic where somebody goes up. Maybe they bumped into a friend that plays a certain song they like to sing, so they go up and perform it. But for campfire songs, we're very untraditional. I think like it's weird, a weird song like Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and Leaving on a Jet Plane, stuff like that. Those are sort of our traditional campfire songs. Those sort of universal songs that most people know. We don't really break that much. You'll see more campfire or camp-based songs at the musician circle because somebody will come up and sing a silly song, or they'll sing like a They Might Be Giants song, which kind of borders on like a camp song because it's like a silly sort of science song or whatever.
George of the Jungle apparently is a good choice.
Oh, George of the Jungle, very nice. George the Jungle. But yeah,
well, if we really wanted to, you could go as far as Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yeah.
And like the people do sing a lot of sort of nerdy songs. I know this year Steven Universe was pretty high up on the. It seemed to replace the random furs that would sing pony songs. We're now singing songs from Steven Universe, which was fine with me.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very weird camp because we have the capacity for camp songs because we have 3 or 4 events that are all based around performing songs for the camp, but rarely does it break into like, you know, the Quartermaster's song or what's another traditional camp song like
Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
No.
Oh yeah, Kumbaya. I don't think that's ever been played at Feral.
We do not want to live together. And...
Yeah.
No.
I don't want religion in my camp.
What's that?
I don't want religion in my camp.
No religion in the camp. We did used to have I guess a spiritual event on like Sunday morning of the camp. We would have people run sort of this, I guess it was just a spiritual service that was non-denominational, but once we hit a certain point where we realized the person running it and one other person was attending, which isn't even really the case anymore, we realized it wasn't really that kind of camp. Like I think it's one of those things, if people requested it, we would find a way to try to make it happen, but
there's no need to have it there.
Yeah, as an official thing, like it could be a private thing for themselves, kind of a thing. That would how things change.
Oh, how non-secular we become.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, I think, and people like it's a bit of a spiritual experience for a lot of furs, anyways, because you're going out into the woods. You're out in the fresh air. It's sort of like furries are taking over this rustic summer camp, and it becomes ours for 5 days. And there's always it's an emotional roller coaster. So I think a lot of people kind of leave with a bit of a spiritual experience sense. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's kind of what replaced that.
What? God, fresh air and like summer camp vibes sound awesome to me now.
Yeah.
I'm like a super indoor kid, but like For some reason, that just sounds like a really cool week away now.
Well, Scratch, if you remember our matric weekend,
That was
that was awesome.
okay. I mean,
It was set up in like a whole bunch of blue gum trees, off on practically a cliff overlooking the ocean.
I thought you meant like our like
No, not that one.
yeah, that one was kind of
But
shitty.
was it the same place?
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, I was thinking
Apostol Battery.
I was thinking like end of matric, like our matric farewell weekend away.
No, that one is awesome. But I mean, like the thing is, I'm talking about a Apostle Battery.
Yeah, that place
which
was kind of cool.
It's literally just like this camp on a cliff
Mm.
overlooking the ocean.
Yeah,
These
yeah,
decommissioned artillery guns
yeah.
from the 1940s during World War II, where we were actually like actively protecting our coast.
Mm-hmm.
That are sitting there. And one of the things that they made us do is that we had to crawl through, like from one cannon to the other. There was a crawl space between them, and you had to get through that. No lights, nothing. You get to the other side, and you kind of sit there going like, "Hello, is anyone there?" Somebody was, yes, I think. And then you touch them on the face.
Yeah.
You're like, great, okay, I'm safe.
Cool. If I could see, I can't now anymore. Yeah.
That's awesome.
The only shitty thing is that like, the boys and the girls sort of cabins are separated because the girls' cabins are like nice and down by like the main events area and by the kitchen and the mess hall and everything. The boys had to trek up like vertically up 200 meters just to get
No,
to
but it's because we're men.
yeah, but we had to do that to get to our bungalows or dormitories or whatever the hell those things were. Like
It's all
full of
co-ed at Farrell's, so it's basically whatever cabin you get put in, that's how far you are from main lodge. But most are pretty equidistant.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. What does co-ed really mean in like a predominantly gay area setting?
Oh, well, actually, the funny thing is, I would say 50% of our guests of honor have been women, and the number of female furries that come to camp now are much higher than we had. Sort of one big year in about 2006, where it was something like probably 14 or 15 women showed up almost unexpectedly. It was like, whoa, we have this
Suddenly
big group of girls. Usually it's like 3 or 4, but now like our staff has 3. And camp just generally, like, there's just a bunch of girls that come back every year. They're lots of fun, and they all have their cabins that they want to stay in. Mm-hmm. But nobody wants gendered cabins. They just want to be with their friends. So we used to have the girls' cabin, or if there was a lot in one year, we'd have 2 girls' cabins, and then we'd have the rest of the cabins. But now it's just essentially people say, I want to be in a cabin with this person, and we set that up. So like Ivic, who was our guest of honor last year, even though she was guest of honor, she had her cabin she usually stayed in. So she wanted to be in that cabin. And in 2013, all 3 of our guests of honor were women. It was Anyar, Pato, and Gishkishen, who was also our first First Nations Aboriginal guest of honor.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. We just try to go based on like who's like really exciting us or inspiring us right now, and a lot of it also lately has come from, we had Kihu, who's a really cool artist, in 2014, and he came on recommendation from another person who had to turn down the guest of honor request. So that person just said, get Kihu, he's awesome, and Kihu ended up being amazing. And then Kihu said to us, I think next year you should bring in Edge, who goes by Edge Destroys on Twitter. And we're glad he did, because Edge is also one of our, like, Kihu and Edge are 2 of our best guests of honor. And we kind of found this sort of like word of mouth guest of honor approach is pretty cool, where you have a guest of honor recommend a guest of honor for the next year, and it always seems to work out. But yeah, that was a bit of a tangent. But yeah, we do have women's. And we have a question about people that are not fit for some activities. What I've found is that the fresh air kind of invigorates a lot of people. So a lot of people who maybe are not generally active kind of find that energy and get involved in, at least there are certain games, like there's watermelon football, where it's like you get into the dock, you get into the water, and you kind of try to get a watermelon from one side of the dock to the other, which is harder than it seems because watermelons, they are buoyant, but they're heavy. So they take a while to float back to the surface if you miss it. So two teams are sort of staring at the water, waiting for this watermelon to float up, which is lots of fun. But I mean, everything after 6 o'clock is more of an event than an activity. It's like performance, and we have a poetry corner that's been going on since 2003. We have music events. We have the cabin skits. We have improv dances. 2 of the nights have dances. And then
like
there's also
dancing?
always, yes, folk dancing. Nothing but folk dancing. For some reason, the EDM.
As
but
for real?
No, no, it's EDM.
Okay.
It's mostly
Yeah.
people playing EDM. No way. I find that people that just aren't active and don't want to be active tend to. There's a lot of sort of art circles, a lot of reading. There was one fur that used to come every year and would spend most of their time sitting underneath a tree reading, and that's sort of was their feral experience. It's what they wanted to do. There are nature hikes, which are much less impact. You could just kind of walk through the woods and check things out. This year, the camp staff named Jackie Chan brought in a laughing yoga, which was pretty interesting. I didn't get to do it, but laughing yoga was pretty interesting. It's essentially yoga, but all you're doing is laughing. And by the time you leave, your stomach is so tight from all the laughing you've done that it's like you just did like a whole bunch of crunches.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Laughing crunches. But you always have to do it from your stomach, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, you have to like, ha, 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 kind of a thing.
Do that again?
It's like, ha, 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 ha.
That is awesome.
Is it? It's kind of Santa Clausy.
Very jolly.
And he comes from the Great North.
Yes, we're all jolly here.
Yeah. Tell us about your affiliation with Pink.
Oh, I don't know. Like I've always just loved the color pink, and when I originally started coloring my hair, which would have been just after university, so like late '99, early 2000s, I started coloring my hair more regularly. I kind of stuck with like reds, blues. I kind of just sort of went all over the colors. But then when I hit, I guess the end of 2000, I just realized I always wanted it to just be pink, and I decided to go with it. And a friend, Silfer, who at one point was quite the sort of furry celebrity, he suggested I do it in a mohawk. And it's another one of those things where I'd always wanted to do it in a mohawk, but just never did it because I like punk music, but I wouldn't call myself a punk. So I did the mohawk, I made it pink, and I just kept it that way for like a couple of years. And then it reached that point where I realized like I can't change this now. Like it's sort of what people expect. And
Natural hair color.
yeah, it sort of became my natural hair color. And then in 2005, I went to FC in California, and people sort of knew me by my hair color. So I didn't know who these people were, but they knew me and called me by name. And then 2 years later, I came back, and it was sort of the same situation. I realized, oh God, like a pink mohawk is my brand. I like, if I change it, nobody will know who I am. So I just started like, I just kept it up. Like I've been lazy a bit this year. If it's not sort of a big event, or if I'm just tired for the week, I might not repink that week. But I generally try to keep it pink for hanging out with people whenever I can. And obviously, like fur cons, I'm going down to Fang Con at the end of October, which is in Tennessee, and it'll be pink for that for sure. I mean, it would be weird to not be pink and go to a con. And I think that's going to be my Fang Con will be my external con of the year. I usually try to get out of Canada for one con every year. And last year it was Wild Nights in Oklahoma, and 2013 it was I guess 2013 it was Abondo in Brazil. So this year I'm going to head down to Knoxville, Tennessee, and check out FangCon.
Sweet.
Knoxville's a great place, from what I hear.
It looks cool. I mean, that's where Tarantino's from, so nothing can go wrong. Oh, wait a second.
It is Tarantino.
Opening and closing scenes of Pulp Fiction. That's all I need to tell you. Yeah. But
I'm actually really excited because I like Tennessee. Like Tennessee's a heart of like songwriting. A lot of songwriting comes out of Tennessee, so I'm excited to go there.
Memphis is just on the way. I'm pretty sure you'd probably
Yep.
take a trip to Elvis's.
Memphis. Nashville is the big. That's like songwriting central for pretty much the world. Is Nashville, Tennessee?
That's interesting.
It's not just country music. Like it's where songs are written.
So you find a songwriter there, just pick him up.
Yep, pick him up and make him write songs for me.
I will pay you money, and I will probably stab you at the end.
I might pay you money, and I will stab you at the end.
When you stated that first question, I think about like what's your affiliation with Pink. Given your history in music, I thought it was like, is it Pink the color or Pink the artist?
Me and Pink, we go way back.
She seems like an amazing human being to be around.
She seems pretty fun. Some singers are cool. Some singers are dicks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think you know what you're gonna get until, because like when I met Drake was one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Really?
When I met Teo Cruz, who did that song "Break Your Heart" and stuff, he was one of the biggest dicks I ever met. So you never know what you're gonna bump into.
Knowing your previous affiliation, say. I'm sorry.
Wah, wah.
Oh no, that was terrible. My mind goes to the most horrifying places. But you met Drake. That's awesome.
I had about 5 or 6 months working at Universal in Toronto. And it was just around the time that Thank Me Later came out. So it was his first real full-length album. And it just so happened that was a priority. So I actually got to like go interact with him. It was very brief, but I got to interact with him a little bit. And it kind of made everything worthwhile because otherwise I was working a lot on Bieber stuff. And that was not as much fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What an asshole he turned out to be.
Yeah. He was apparently very sweet to start. Talking to the people that were there when he was just sort of building up, he was just like a shy little kid. But like, I guess, fame corrupts you.
Fame and heroin.
Fame and heroin corrupts you. You're all right.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying Justin Bieber takes heroin, but rumors do start.
Rumors start about that kind of thing on podcasts.
Yeah, totally said that.
Then again,
we never said it.
Yeah, then again, it's
we do not confirm nor deny that we actually said the exact same words as that happened. But we do speculate the idea.
Yes, it's just speculation.
Of course it is.
Pure speculation. Okay. Raven really wants to sing, and actually, you know what? I mean, you're a singer yourself.
Yeah, kinda. I guess I do.
He says hitting his pure falsetto.
Yeah. I have one of those, I guess, indie voices where you're not quite sure if it's really good or if it's they're just trying desperately to sing. But I've been singing long enough that I guess I'm half decent. I've reached that point.
Okay. What do you think of Nick Cave?
I love Nick Cave. But he's a songwriter. But like, I come from Canada. We have Leonard Cohen, who can't sing. A lot of our singers are not known for how well they sing. They just kind of are singers. But like Leonard Cohen, he won Male Vocalist of the Year once at the Junos. I mean, over people that can actually hit real notes. So I have an affinity for that. Tom Waits has always been one of my favorite musicians. Nick Cave. I've always been a big fan of unique singers that aren't just cookie cutter hitting notes perfectly. I'd rather hear a bit of sort of honesty and naturalness in a voice. But I like Nick Cave a lot. Murder Ballads is awesome.
Yeah, Murder Ballads is amazing. Yeah, that was exactly that. Have you ever watched the Cat Piano where he narrates?
No.
You need to watch it.
Yeah. Like, after this, I'm pointing you to the link to Cat Piano.
Awesome.
But above and beyond that, Tox is asking whether you could sing us a song.
Oh Lord. Uh, that's I'm just looking around the room to see if there's anything like tuned up that can be played.
Uh-huh.
Oh dear. Let me come back to you on that one. That's unexpected. I don't use I don't perform on such short notice. Says he in
Do you
his
have a link? Do you have a link to one of the songs that you particularly like that you've done? Maybe.
um I mean, the stuff that I do is so weird, especially now. When in the mid 2000s, when I was making more music that was like just, I guess you could call it radio friendly.
Mhm.
I was writing pretty songs, but I was just trying to write them sort of like based on life experience and do the real songwriter kind of that thing. And now most of my music is quite literally inspired by low budget horror films. So I'll watch a really, really bad movie, low budget movie. Sometimes they're amazing. They're just low budget.
Mhm.
And during the song, I'll come up with, or during the movie, I'll come up with sort of an idea, and then I'll build a song outside of it. So I've written a song about, let's see, like Redneck Zombies, which was a trauma movie.
Mhm.
I wrote a song about a movie called Fungicide about killer mushrooms. Um, and stuff like that. I just and that's sort of it's I've been calling it B folk, so like B movies, but it's B folk music, and that's sort of been my latest little uh, fun little project. But like that's weird stuff. Some people like it, some people are just they despise it. But I can link people to it if they want to see
Sure.
how weird it is.
Oh, any song
Sorry that
about
we can't
killer.
get him to actually sing. Maybe next time we'll prep for that.
Yeah, next time I will see, but I feel like I'm not going to do a very good performance if I do it right
We're not
now.
putting you on if I don't hear a tuned up uke in the background.
I don't have a uke, but I have a mandolin.
Close enough.
What?
I have a
Those are
mandolin.
awesome. Mandolins are awesome. You should actually, oddly enough, you should try playing around with marimba.
Yes, marimba is awesome. I have on my wall. I have an electric bass. It's a Fender Prodigy, which is a really cool little bass. I have two acoustic guitars. I have an electric guitar that was signed by Paul Stanley, but
Ooh.
like I don't play much electric guitar, so it just kind of hangs there and gets dusty. And then I have a banjo and a mandolin, and that's sort of my stringed stuff.
Hmm.
And I have an accordion, a variety of keyboards. That's generally what I play around with.
Hmm.
Mostly the acoustic stuff and the accordion, and I'll use the keyboards to do like a piano thing. But generally, that's sort of what I've been sticking with. But it's fun.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to
Huh.
pick up an instrument. But on that bombshell, it actually seems like
What do you
we're
mean bombshell?
slowly running out of
Bombshell.
time.
I like bombshell. That's awesome.
But yeah, we're slowly running out of time, so
Yeah.
I think we need to start.
On that mandolinian note.
Yeah, on that
Oh.
on that flat note. I
um.
get to work, Ivic.
uh, uh,
You're on the spot now.
Oh no. We'd like to thank you, Potoroo, for being on the podcast. We really, really enjoy having you around. Like the stories are awesome to hear, and I mean, like I'm pretty sure that we didn't even get through half of them, which is again one of the reasons why we really love having you on.
I made a list of like 15 just in case I'd need to find something and I didn't even touch on them. So, oops.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's put a pin in that. We'll get back to him for
Yeah.
sure.
I got it
definitely.
saved.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Victor, Ravensong, Rakuin, Larigo, Neon, and Tox for listening in. I know that there's probably a whole bunch of others out there also listening. We'd like to thank you guys for tuning in, listening to Potoroo, and listening to the podcast in general. I'd also like to thank Doge for sitting in my room and looking generally annoying.
Hey.
Mhm.
I haven't said head to it. What's his name? Doge?
Doge, yeah, or Dan Leo, or Dan Doge, or
Hey, Dan Doge.
No. So you got a little bit of a sing-song voice out of that, at least.
There you go.
Also,
Yeah,
as
that's my
Bjorn,
song.
who's also in the same room. Yeah, so those are the people who listen in from like real life time and get all my timeouts.
And
Yeah,
I,
we I have touchable audience here.
And I'd like to thank Ager Project Breweries for the beer I'm drinking right now.
Nice.
I'd like to thank. Okay, if we're talking about that, Wilson's London Dry Gin.
Gin.
It's
Is
hard.
it that
It's
time of
the
the month?
cheapest stuff that I've found so far, but it does a trick.
Yeesh.
Are you a ginny? Do you like gin?
I'm not ginger, but yeah.
You like gin, yeah, because there's a good one called Hendrix. I don't know if they have it there, but it's really, really tasty. So you should look out for that.
Tantrix?
Hendrix, like Jimi Hendrix,
Hendrix.
but with a
Oh.
CKS instead of an X.
Okay, I heard Tantrix, and I was just sitting there going like
Yeah,
Tantric.
like I know
Gin.
Tanqueray, but not really. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Okay.
Huh. All right. Anyway, so guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We really enjoy having you guys on, and we really enjoy being able to give you good quality, very, very awesome, illustrious guests.
Oh God. I didn't catch on to where you were going until you got to the end of that.
And yeah, we really like having sort of the kind of content that we're sort of pushing forward and things like that. And there's some really, really interesting things in the pipeline that are coming up soon. And yeah, just keep an eye out for us on Tumblr, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Scratch. Where else are we? Google Plus.
The Tumblr, the Facebook, the Google Plus.
If you see us in public, throw rocks at us. We're very good at reaction time.
You say that now. You've never had good reaction time.
He who throws the first stone. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
Cheerio. Oh yes, of course, the forum, which I neglect so often, Raccoon.
Of course, yeah, the forum. The forum's also there. Go check that out.
The thing is that a completely different argument there. We will see you guys next week Sunday, same time, same place, different guest.
Okay.
Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye bye.
Just kidding.
Yay.
Where's your class?